Even at the age of 40, LeBron James is still able to dominate the NBA. But how does he do it? Simple. He follows kingdom principles. Ecclesiastes 7:12 states, "Wisdom is a shelter as money is a shelter. But the advantage of knowledge is this: wisdom preserves those who have it." So what does wisdom look like from LeBron at the age of 40? Let's break it down. This first play is an example of a wise player and a wise coach. So after Braun passes to Hayes, Max Christie comes up and flips the screen and sets a cross screen for Braun to get into this handoff. And now this is where the defense has a lot of pressure from every single player. And it started with Anunoby. So if we go back from that Max Christie screen, Anunoby is now no longer in front of Braun. So this means that Karl Anthony Towns has to now help and make a decision. And where he is now is in between both Hayes and Braun, which now leaves Jackson Hayes open a little bit. So this causes Jalen Brunson to pinch in and leaves Max Christie possibly open for a pop on that three. And now if you look at the right side, you have Austin Reeves curling out from that baseline to get to the corner from a screen by Rui Hachimura. So now Josh Hart and Mikal Bridges are both engaged in the action. So now there's practically no help defense for Braun, and he has a lane straight through this right side because everyone's distracted. He's able to get a layup and preserve his body because of wisdom. Off this made shot from New York, Braun gets the ball, and once he gets past half court, he gets a screen from Max Christie, and this is the trigger to the play because Jalen Brunson is guarding Max Christie, and the Knicks don't want to switch Jalen Brunson onto LeBron. So what are they going to do? They're going to hard hedge. And if you're unfamiliar with the hard hedge in basketball, that's where the person who's guarding the screener is only going to show to the body of the on-ball player and then only to buy time for their teammate to get back in front. And so that is what Jalen Brunson is doing, and he's not going to switch this action. So what ends up happening since he has to hard hedge, Max Christie slips out, and that leaves him open and possibly able to get a layup at the rim, which now triggers Josh Hart on that weak side for help. So now LeBron has to make the read and find the open teammate. So what does he do? He jumps in the air, shows the ball on the way up to Christie's side to force Anunoby to raise his hands up towards Christie, and instead switches the pass to skip over to Rui Hachimura in the corner, and he's able to knock down that three. A thing that comes with wisdom is having patience, and we not only see it in this isolation, but we also see it in Proverbs 19:11, which says, "A person's wisdom yields patience." And so when Braun gets this catch, he's going to wait for Christie to screen, see if there's anything. There's nothing. They get spaced. Braun faces up. And now once he faces up, he waits and reads the floor to see, are they going to send a double team? And since they don't, he rips right, takes 1, 2, 3 steps, and is able to get his bucket. Even in transition, you still must be patient because you have to read the help defense. And so now when Braun brings the ball down the floor, he's at about 50% speed, and Landry Shamet picks up on him. And if you read the help defense, you'll see that Josh Hart is in the middle of the floor. He's at the nail. So what does Braun do? He chops up his steps just so he could see the decision that Josh Hart is going to make, because Vando is also cutting along that right side. And once Josh Hart commits to Vando, LeBron decides to attack hard to that left, get straight to his spots, and float over the top of Landry Shamet because he's much smaller than him. If LeBron wants to score in isolation, he has to find a matchup that's in his favor. And if you remember what we watched earlier, they weren't switching Jalen Brunson onto him, although that is a matchup in his favor. But now with the lineup that the Knicks have now, who will they switch onto Braun that is a matchup in LeBron's favor? That, in this case, is Landry Shamet. So the Lakers get Vando to set a screen on Anunoby, and now Shamet switches on to Braun at the top of the key. And now this is where Braun can get into his bag. So now he's doing these size ups, these combos, boom, goes right, spins back over the right shoulder, boom, fade over the top, even with Anunoby's hand, bucket. Tough bucket. And now a second time again, back-to-back plays. This shows you wisdom because Braun has found a hole within the Knicks' defensive game plan that allows for him to be able to attack a player who isn't a great defender on him one-on-one. So he ends up getting Shamet on him once again from a screen by Finney-Smith. And now LeBron turns his back. He looks at the floor to see, all right, are they going to double? Are they going to load up on help? Which they do not. And so when Braun goes right, McBride ends up stepping up, cutting off his drive to the right side. So what does Braun do once again? He spins back over his right shoulder and is able to fade over the top and get another bucket against Landry Shamet for the third time in a row. We've seen Braun attack Jalen Brunson in a pick and roll. We've seen him attack a wing and Shamet in a pick and roll. But how about a big and Karl-Anthony Towns in a pick and roll? So on this play, Braun's on the right side, calls for a screen by Rui Hachimura. And unlike that play we've seen from Landry Shamet, he doesn't switch this and shows it more so like that play from Brunson. And Braun already knows at this point he must make the right play, although he may not get compensated in the box score because of it. Because with this pass and slit to Rui Hachimura, this is going to cause McBride on the weak side to step over. And that help from McBride is going to trigger more help. So Achua is going to drop down to help out McBride, which now leaves Finney-Smith open at the top because Campaign did not help out Achua, who helped out McBride, which now leaves Finney-Smith open, and he's able to knock that down, and Braun gets the hockey assist. 30 seconds later, LeBron decides to go and attack Karl-Anthony Towns in the pick and roll from the top of the key, but not from the corner like we see in the last play. So this is going to change the coverage up tremendously, because instead of seeing a blitz like we saw last time where Karl-Anthony Towns stepped all the way into Braun's body, we now see Karl-Anthony Towns in a drop coverage. So what does Braun do? Display patience that comes with his wisdom. So now he goes to this right side, takes 2 dribbles at a very slow pace to read Anunoby and see, is he going to go and take away Rui, and is Cat going to stay with me? And since Cat doesn't want to give up Braun a lane to the rim, he ends up staying, and Anunoby continues to chase, and now Braun hits Rui on that pass, going back on that pop, and Rui is able to knock it down. 1 minute later, LeBron tells Rui Hachimura to cut from the left wing to the right side, and now understand the spacing. You got Austin Reeves in this left corner, and now you have Finney-Smith stepping up to set LeBron a screen from the top of the key, and notice who's guarding Finney-Smith. Karl-Anthony Towns. And this is the 3rd time that Braun has attacked Karl Towns in pick and roll, and the 2nd time from the top of the key. So now what does Braun do? He gets out left to utilize the space that he created by telling Rui Hachimura to cut through, and sells his shot to Anunoby while Karl Towns continues to stay in front and clog up the lane so Braun can't drive, and Braun decides to hit Finney-Smith at the top of the key, and he's able to knock that down. What we just saw there is a minute display of Braun's wisdom as an offensive player, but he also has wisdom as a defensive player. So now let's break that down. LeBron might not be the best when it comes to staying in front of great ball handlers, but he is great as a defensive floor general. So when Max Christie has Jalen Brunson and he has to go through the screen and switch on to Karl-Anthony Towns, LeBron recognizes this mismatch and is not going to allow the Knicks to exploit it. So what is he going to do? Make an off-ball switch with Christie, so now Christie goes to Hart and LeBron goes to Towns, and this leaves the Knicks offense starstruck. They don't know what to do. So what does Josh Hart do? Something he's not that great at doing, which is attacking somebody one-on-one, and he ends up turning the ball over, and Rui gets that steal. And now what does LeBron able to get from being able to be such a great leader on that defensive end? He gets rewarded, comes down, hits a headsy pull, and gets a bucket. On this next possession, you have LeBron on Josh Hart. And after Hart kicks the ball to Karl Towns, Josh Hart now ends up cutting through. But watch what Braun does. He understands the fact that at this point, Josh Hart is a non-threat because he's just trying to get to space and not trying to score. So Braun keeps his eyes on the ball. And while Karl-Anthony Towns goes to his left side to fake this handoff, he ends up going into this drive. Braun stands exactly where he is, right in front of where Josh Hart is at the moment as a non-threat, and is able to get a charge. When it comes to wisdom, one thing I want y'all to understand is that when LeBron turned 40, he did not just go and grab wisdom out of thin air. He attained wisdom from all the years of studying and learning prior to turning 40. So in y'all's case, in y'all's lives, do not wait until you're old to go and get wisdom and to begin studying and perfecting your craft. Get wisdom right now while you're young. So by the time that you're older, you'll be able to preserve the skills that you have, similar to what Braun has been able to do. And so don't forget, discipline or regret, you choose.